exchanging consistently and safely enough to race, right? So just having any exchange at all is enough to race the Madison. It would be hard to do, but not impossible if you were just exchanging without touching or doing a butt push. But you guys are all good enough to race. So from henceforth, whomever you race with is going to be different, and it's just up to you to practice and work with your partner and get it perfected. But you know, if Dan and I go out and start exchanging with you, it's still going to feel sloppy because we haven't really done it yet. And it's really a matter of finding the right partner. And two fast racers who decide to do a Madison don't necessarily race well for just that reason.
Minnesota.
So we're just going to keep pressing on. We're going to stick with the same partners for the night just because you at least have some momentum built up. We're just going to head straight into riding around exchanges and exchanging in groups. Okay, any questions about what we've covered so far before we move on? Excellent. So we're going to do some walkthroughs, but again, a couple of fundamentals. Remember, always over exchanges. That's one of the most important rules in Madison.
Explain over exchange.
Over the top
right,
of.
We'll walk through it. After you exchange, this came up before. A lot of you guys were just heading up track without checking over your shoulder. And if you do that in a race, you'll get away with it a lot. And then one time, you'll hear like a muffled yell, and then you're going to get hit from behind. So you're always going to want it. Your instinct should be to exchange and stay exactly where you were. Don't try to pull onto the apron and get out of people's way. If nothing else, the people behind you or your competition, you're going to want to make them go up track, make them go farther. You know, but the problem with going down track is if someone was forced to go underneath your exchange, you'll take them out. So when in doubt, just stay going in a straight line. If you hear someone shouting from behind, just like it doesn't, you know, who knows which way they want you to go. Just stay going straight, make them deal with it. So after the exchange, you're going to stay going right where you were going. If you're stacked up high and you exchange on the blue line, keep going on the blue line, right? So whatever happens, keep your head straight. Don't start looking around. Once you've ridden a little bit and you feel like things are calm, I'd say look over your left shoulder first. Chances are you'll be exchanging in the turn, and if you look over your right away, a lot of people are going to think that you're going up and might try diving underneath. And if you look over your left, you'll actually see more of the track. You'll see, is there a breakaway that's coming up? Are there people who are about to lap the field that I'm about to take out? Is there a group of people who are dropped who are coming up?
How close is the chase?
Over your left. If that's clear, then look all the way back track. Make sure you can see at least all the way through the turn, or if not through the straightaway. And again, make sure that you're not looking back and going up, that it's actually looking back. And then as soon as it's done, you're cutting as hard as you can up track. So once you're confident it's clear, you've got the full track to yourself, go all the way up to the rail as fast as you can without falling, basically. And then as soon as you get up, stabilize, relax your legs, just let the bike slow down as quickly as possible. In line with going over exchanges, what you're going to do, let's have a couple people walk through. Dan, you want to come demonstrate? You guys want to come up? Some volunteers. So Dan and Jen are riding. Christine's dropping down and exchanging. So Dan's pulling up around Christine, right? So hang on, just wait right here. He skipped ahead one level. So Dan's on Jen's wheel, right? Christine is going in. As soon as they're even and Dan's up, he's gonna get on Christine's wheel and held right there. Now the problem is she's obviously going really slow, so he can't. Depending how fast they do their exchange, he may be able just to hang out there. If they stretch their exchange out too much, he's not going to hit the brakes. He'll just keep coming, and he might even pull even with her, right? So now Christine's going to get a good exchange. She has a really solid push, and so she's going to rocket forward, right? And had he hit the brakes, she would have opened up a bike length gap. But by just keeping on the gas, you don't have to speed up. You don't do anything. You just keep riding, pull up alongside, and as soon as they're done, bam, you're back down. You don't have to worry about someone poking in there because the only reason they got that gap was from the exchange.
Sounds just like a scratch race where you're using the banking net.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how things start getting stacked up. You know, had there been another team exchanging behind Dan, they would have had to follow him all the way up around. So then all of a sudden, two teams plus a couple riders in the middle are stacked up all the way to the rail. And then it's sort of like an echelon in a road race. You just have to reset. The next, sixth team in line is going to have to come back down to the sprinter's lane. start the whole thing, and everybody behind them is gapped off after their exchange. So again, eyes always forward during the exchange. If you're the one throwing in, you're going to really make a concerted effort to stay on the wheel that's in front of you until all the way through the exchange, right? So when a lot of you who were dropping in too slow, the partner who was throwing sort of had to sit up a little bit because there was too much of a speed difference. So if that happens in a race, you'll start to notice that now when you start exchanging around other people, because as soon as you whether or not you think you slow down, all of a sudden the person in front of you is going the same speed the whole time. So you grab your partner's hand, all of a sudden there's a 2 bike length gap before you've even stiffened arms. So make sure, again, pedaling the same rate, always on the wheel in front of you. And we touched on this a little bit, but you're going to adjust the elevation that you drop down to depending on traffic. So keep an eye. Could you come back and do this? So if they're exchanging, if I'm coming in for Dan and he's already pulled up alongside Christine, then if I pull down right behind Christine, then Dan's going to get boxed in, right? Let's try it again. So if Christine and I drop down together, but they do their exchange really slow,
on the
not
bottom,
to say anything, but they just take too long, then Dan is just going to run in the back of them. So he's most likely going to have to pop out. He might pull even with her. You really want to avoid doing this, actually, which is 2 teams exchanging over one another, but it's something that can happen. And
Why do you want to avoid it?
because you never know where they're going to go. Like, if Dan pulls on his bars as he's exchanging, he'll hit Christine. If they bobble, she'll go up track. So it's, and then there might be people stuck down behind them.
Do you
So
have any other choices?
not really. I guess the only thing you would do is just what I would do is say you guys, generally people are consistent. So if I notice that you guys are stretching out your exchanges and taking too long, this is actually jumping forward just a little bit. But when you're exchanging, what I would do if I'm behind and I want to move up in the pack is right when they grab arms, I'll do a sprint and pull up and just come right in front of her. And that does 2 things. She now all of a sudden can't do a very strong throw because I'm in front of her, so you're kind of screwing them over because they can't do it. That means Jen's going to be going faster. She'll have to go do a longer turn, and Christine has to do some more pedaling. But I'll just quickly pop around. It takes so little time because she's going really slowly. Just pop around, come right in front, and then I'd exchange in front of them. And it's a bit of a dick move, but it works really well, and it's better than running at the back of somebody.
but your point originally was not to drop all the way to the red as the team in second. To drop, you were going to stay high.
Right.
That you coming in from relief should not plan on going down all the way to the red, because he knows that Dan is going to have to be a little higher for the team in front, so he adjusts and doesn't come all the way down.
Right. So it's a dynamic thing. And this, again, if you're dropping in too soon, this isn't something you can plan for, right? So if you drop down and you're riding a straightaway with your arm out, when's he coming, that was way too soon, because if all of a sudden things stack up, you're going to be in the middle of it and people are just going to run into you. Your partner might wind up all of a sudden being on the right because the whole field swung up and he or she was overlapping up. So that's the importance of getting up to speed high on the track, not counting on the banking to help speed you up, and then dropping down, both hands on the bars, and only at the last second you know where to stabilize, straighten, and put your hand out. And another point, keep your eyes forward as well. If the same thing can happen, if let's say Dan and I are exchanging, let's say we're off the front or off the back, if there's somebody who just exchanged riding on the red that Dan's having to come around, so I'm up here and I'm looking back at Dan trying to figure out what's going on, but Jen's on relief because they're trying to lap the field and we're trying to catch up. So she hasn't come up track yet because the field's bearing down on her. If I drop all the way down to the red, then now Dan's just going to run in the back of her. So he'll wind up going on the apron or come up around my right side, but he can't go between us.
There's no exchange.
Because there's no space. So in that case, I would drop down with just enough space for him to go around her safely, do the exchange, and then he has to make sure that he doesn't bobble and take her out. So you'll find that a lot when after you've done your exchange, as the pack comes over and people start exchanging over you, it's disconcerting when someone does an exchange right next to you because they do squirm just a touch. So but hold your ground. Again, don't go on the apron. There could be somebody there just as much as there's someone on your right. All right, that's it. Any questions?
Maybe just a comment, just something I've had happen to me. When you're slowing down, you're coming more upright, and when people are going fast, they're in.
Right.
So you're kind of like, when you're slowing down, someone's exchanging above you. Your heads are next to each other, like the helmets are going right by, and that's like almost like you were saying. You can kind of be a dick and move up track, and that makes them go around you.
Yeah.
Make them do that extra quick.
Yeah. So let's walk through it a couple times on the grass. So let's split into